This week we're going to talk about home price appreciation and help solve the crisis in the Middle East, so stay tuned. Welcome to another local market update with Rick Batista. Welcome to another monthly market update. I don't know about you, but my heart's been extremely heavy since last week, and I'm not sure how many more tears I can cry. And please know that as much humor as I try to bring to these videos, for those of you who do catch my jokes, I'm not joking right now. I'm being 100% serious and heartfelt. I'll refrain from discussing my political views because this is not the platform. Plus, politicians and world leaders don't seem to be interested in logic, reasoning, and doing what is best for the people who they are supposed to represent, let alone the greater good of humanity. But most importantly, this is and has been a matter of humanity. Nothing else. Sadly, it's been covered up on the surface to be about racism, prejudice, and religion, when at the end of the day, so many human shields are losing their lives over real estate. What do you get when you cross racist and prejudicial ideologies with greed and power? Then toss in a few sprinkles of controlled media instilling fear and helping to form phobias within a species that has an increasing amount of mental illness, whether it be mild or severe? Bloodshed. And for what? Land. Greed, power, control. And if control over land wasn't bad enough, control over human beings? Now that's as low as you can go. My heart goes out to the people in Gaza and all of Palestine and Israel. And I can't stress this enough, my heart goes out to the innocent people and souls in Gaza and all of Palestine and Israel. If you believe the only answer is war and violence and to level the place or wipe out an entire group of people, enjoy your time on earth because you're going to have a hell of an afterlife. I condemn hatred, I condemn violence, I condemn the unfair treatment of all living beings and creatures, I condemn stupidity. Whether you believe what I believe, agree with me or not, look like me or not, speak like me or not, think like me or not, you're my fellow human. After centuries upon centuries of acting like animals, when are we going to evolve into a species that can work things out without violence? I'd also like to take a moment to send my deepest condolences to the family who suffered the loss of their beautiful son in Plainfield right here in Illinois. A young life ended by their goddamn landlord, a sick SOB who also stabbed and severely injured the mother. May your family find the strength to get through this horrific experience with the power of love and faith. For everyone else, folks, I'm asking you to pray or ask the powers that be or the universe to give people within your communities and across the world the common sense to display sanctity for life. Something I feel that as a species we have been lacking for far too long. What the hell is going on? Seriously. People, please keep in mind that this is a war on humanity. It's not a conflict. And one, it's a war that has been going on for far too long and could have been avoided to begin with, or at least relocated to another part of the world where tensions may not have been so high from the get-go. And two, the dirty bastards at the political level are the ones fighting, using innocent lives as target practice. And these dirty bastards?
They don't give a fuck about you. They don't give a fuck about you. They don't care about you at all. At all. At all.
They care about having more and more and more. Collateral damage, corporate jargon for dead children, women, and men, innocent lives. They can thank their own leaders for our response, or whatever nonsense being spewed, all bullshit to justify the sad and poor actions of people or things trying to impersonate a human being. And just like the song from that classic Coca-Cola commercial, I'd like to buy the world a home and furnish it with love. Grow olive trees and honeybees and snow white turtle doves. We've always had a lot of issues, but it doesn't seem to be getting any better for our species. Although we're connected more than ever before, it seems as though we're so disconnected from ourselves, one another, and humanity. Make love, not war, because it's harder to fight when you're busy getting busy. Now for the satire segment of the show. So, besides feeling guilty for grieving over something I myself am not even living through in a land on the other side of the world, I got to thinking, what can we do to help solve this crisis over there? Why the hell do squatters in Chicago have more rights than people in Gaza and throughout Palestine? Why is discrimination even an issue anymore in the year 2023? What is something I work closely with day in and day out that ties in humanity, fairness, the right to live in peace, no matter your walk of life? So I took another look at fair housing. What is fair housing? It ultimately is a person's right to choose where to live and enjoy their home free from discrimination, with the belief that everyone should have equal access to housing, and it was put into place to remove barriers that restrict access to opportunity. The Fair Housing Act prohibits discrimination in housing because of race, color, national origin, religion, sex, including gender identity and sexual orientation, familial status, and disability. If we get more local, the Illinois Human Rights Act prohibits housing discrimination in real estate transactions based on race, sex, age, 40 and older. Jeez, I feel old now. Color, sexual orientation, military status, ancestry, marital status, unfavorable discharge from military service, national origin, pregnancy, arrest record, religion, familial status, families with children under 18 years old, source of income, disability, order of protection status, and immigration status effective January 1st, 2024. And if we get even more local under the Chicago Fair Housing Ordinance, housing discrimination is denying someone equal access to housing because of the same criteria listed for Illinois, but their wording is a little different for income, stating lawful source of income. It is also a violation of the ordinance for the landlord or property manager to retaliate against a tenant because he or she previously filed a complaint against them at the Commission of Human Relations. No matter where you are in the U.S., across the country, HUD's Office of Fair Housing and Equal Opportunity works to eliminate housing discrimination and promote civil rights and economic opportunity through housing. So I read through all this and started thinking, we need to push for an organization like HUD to be set up in Palestine. Then instead of a program like Doctors Without Borders, we should have Attorneys Without Borders and have them set up shop in Gaza and the West Bank. You know, what's left of Palestine. And the world will have to come together on the side of humanity and demand a ceasefire while we have the same justice system here in Cook County sort all this out. That will definitely buy us several years at least. Hopefully in that time we can have people retrained on matters of humanity so they may begin to see their neighbor as a human being rather than an animal. And of course, since shit rolls downhill, let's stop the shit from the top and have mandatory training for world leaders first. What all this should lead to is hopefully a successful journey to achieve people's rights in a place that desperately needs some basic fucking human rights. I'll wrap up this segment by saying the amount of land on Earth may be limited, but the amount and level of stupidity is endless. So if we can only get dinosaurs to come back, I think they'd settle the argument of who can claim the land first. And secondly, in all seriousness, I love all kinds of people. I absolutely do. The differences we have make us wonderful. My fellow humans, we've got a lot of work yet to do, but please know that at the end of the day, whether you'd like to admit it or not, very little separates us. What we look like, we can't do much about. Something we were given by our Creator. But borders and cultures, created by us. When you harm another, are okay with harm brought to another because of their differences, or worse, are indifferent when another life is harmed. I know we've become numb zombies consumed by consumerism, but while you're surfing the net, go find a soul. Please. I think you're in luck because they should be on sale next Prime Day. My best advice, go give someone a hug. It'll make you feel better and a little more human. Now, for the rest of the show. We'll be talking about home price appreciation and then seeing how Chicago did in the month of September. But first, let me say that with so many things going on with the economy right now, as well as in and around housing, I'm committed to bringing you both weekly and monthly market updates because once a month just doesn't cut it. I do find myself scratching my head about this market and I know what's going on. So if I'm confused here and there, I can only imagine how you must feel. My commitment is to help you understand what your options are and how to make sense of it all. Before we get started, I want to let you know that this video discusses both national and local data. The local data we'll share in just a bit is for Chicago proper, the 77 areas. And although we do service all of Chicagoland, including the Burbs, later in this video, we're only going to dive into the city's data. So let's get started with some fun facts and take it from there. National sales of existing homes recently fell to a 7-month low as surging borrowing costs, rising sales prices, and limited inventory continue to keep many would-be buyers out of the market. Borrowers have become increasingly sensitive to fluctuations in mortgage rates, which have remained above 7% since mid-August. With fewer buyers able to afford the cost of home ownership, existing home sales declined 0.7% month over month and were down 15.3% year over year, according to the National Association of Realtors. New listings in the city of Chicago were down 24.1% for detached homes and 18.5% for attached properties. Listings under contract increased 4.1% for detached homes, but decreased 12.8% for attached properties. The median sales price was up 3.3% to $310,000 for detached homes, but remained flat at $335K for attached properties. Month supply of inventory decreased 11.7% for detached units and 0.1% for attached units. Prices have continued to increase this fall despite softening home sales nationwide, as a lack of inventory has kept the market competitive for prospective buyers, sparking bidding wars and causing homes to sell for above asking price in some areas. Heading into September, there were only 1.1 million units available for sale, 0.9% fewer than a month ago and 14.1% fewer than the same period last year, according to NAR. As a result, the U.S. median existing home sales price rose 3.9% year over year to $407,100, marking the third consecutive month that the median sales price topped $400,000. Adjustable rate mortgages, or ARMs, continue to grow in popularity as prospective home buyers aim to combat rising housing costs. Applications for 5/1 adjustable rate mortgages rose 32.5% the week ending October 6th from 4 weeks earlier, according to the Mortgage Bankers Association. Effective rates for a 5/1 ARM averaged about 6.66% compared to the 7.49% for a traditional 30-year fixed mortgage rate, with a share of ARM applicants representing 9.2% of all borrowers, the highest percentage since November 2022. If you're thinking about buying and you want to talk about ARMs, adjustable rate mortgages, I can certainly get in touch with some awesome lenders so they can explain more on how that program could be a good fit for you to get your foot into home ownership. So feel free to reach out. Now, the topic of home price appreciation. Current home price appreciation is essential to the psyche of the buyer or seller. Mortgage rates certainly play a role because if prices go up, it's one thing, but if prices go up and rates go up, many buyers may then face major affordability issues, some to the point that they can no longer afford to buy in their desired area or neighborhood and or afford the type of home that meets their household's needs. With sellers wanting to move but hesitant to put their place in the market and buyers ready to buy but hesitant to pull the trigger, I think it boils down to people people trying to time the market just right. And that's nearly impossible to do. As I've said time and time again, you have to do what is best for you and your household based on your needs, goals, timeline, and budget. Plain and simple. And why can many sellers hold off a little bit more on selling? Because of the amount of equity they're sitting on. Some of you homeowners and current or future sellers could care less about mortgage rates because you have enough equity to buy your next place in cash or put down such a large down payment that even if you're on a fixed income, you'll be able to live well within your means. But let's take a look at the price appreciation over the last 60 years. This chart with data from the Fed shows the ups and downs of the average sales price of houses sold in the U.S. Now, while we see that there was a flattening in the 90s and then a drop off during the great financial crisis beginning in 2008, we can see that home price appreciation has been favorable for homeowners. But people often wonder why the heck would someone even want to buy right now? With rates so high and inventory so low, why? Well, here's one great reason. With data from my property, we can take a look-see as to how rents have increased over the same time frame. Rents may have flattened out in the early 2000s, but they've been going up and away, leaving many households having to face financial challenges and hardships. And what do they have to show for it when they go to their next apartment? Memories and moving costs. It's certainly not equity, which essentially becomes additional funds to use as a down payment on top of the savings they've put together over the years. Renters realize that they can potentially lock in their housing payment for the next 30 years. Certainly, utility costs will vary as well as property taxes, and as a homeowner, you're bound to come across repairs or updating, especially when you're getting the place ready for resale. But when it comes time to sell, you have to consider if the long-term impact and results of homeownership will outweigh remaining a renter for the same amount of time. Listen, owning may not be for everyone, and renting may not be for everyone. You got to do what is best for you and your household. Getting back to home price appreciation, these next two slides show the percent change in home values from different sources. Going back to January 2022, we can see things were looking up. Then there was talk of interest rates going up. Then interest rates really went up, which led to an adjustment in the market. Since January of this year, we've been in the green, even if slightly, every single month. This first slide is looking at the three major indexes, Case-Shiller, FHFA, and CoreLogic. And the next slide, we look at the other three indexes, Zillow, Black Knight, and Freddie Mac. And they all show the same trend. They all show that we're going toward a more normal appreciation. Please understand that this is looking at national data. There are some markets throughout the country that haven't seen the same thing. During the pandemic, there was some movement going around, a lot of people relocating, which made some housing markets go insane. As things progressed and time passed, those same markets took a hit. But for the most part, those markets have been able to bounce back to a more normal market, and we'll take a look at some data by region in just a moment. This next chart with data from FHFA discusses repeat sales indexes, the month-over-month price change for July 2023 by region, and please note that yes, we are talking about July 2023 in October, but collecting this data does take time. So basically, looking at the median sales price or the average sales price of homes, they certainly have their own stories to tell, but the repeat sales index is showing what the same house would be worth today. Across the country, the national rate of appreciation is 0.8%, with the Middle Atlantic and South Atlantic leading the pack at 1.4%, East, North, Central in third at 1.2%. On the flip side, New England and the Pacific are only at 0.3%, and the East, South, Central at 0.1%. On this next slide, looking at Case-Shiller's data for home price movement as of July 2023, in the top 20 metro cities throughout the country, what do we see? Seattle leads the pack at 1.7%, San Diego at 1.5%, LA at 1.1%, and Phoenix at 1%. Chicago's in a three-way tie for fourth place with Miami and DC at 0.9%. To be very clear about home prices, price is not determined by demand. Price is determined by supply as compared to demand. To explain further, here's a quote from Freddie Mac. Overall, it appears the reduction in supply has outweighed the decrease in demand. Thus, house prices have started to increase even as sales have fallen. What it boils down to is that the amount of transactions we have from now through the end of the year will rely heavily on the confidence of the consumer. And I want to bring you as much info and data as possible for you to be able to confidently make decisions for you and your household. Here's a quote from Selma, Hepp, the chief economist at CoreLogic. While continued mortgage rate increases challenge affordability across U.S. housing markets, home price growth is in line with typical seasonal averages, reflecting strong demand bolstered by a healthy labor market, strong wage growth, and supporting demographic trends. Still, with a slower buying season ahead and the surging cost of homeownership, additional monthly price gains may taper off. It's very likely that we'll continue to see home appreciation. We may very well expect to see it taper off to percentages seen in a more normal market conditions. Another quote, this one from Andy Walden, VP of Enterprise Research at ICE. Already baked in price gains mean further acceleration may be on the horizon. If adjusted home prices were to freeze where they are now, it would result in annual HPA rising above 5% by year's end, given the strong price increases seen earlier this year. On the other hand, if the plus 0.64% per month seasonally adjusted price increases we've seen on average in 2023 were to continue, we'd be looking at nearly 8% year-over-year growth by December. To point out, it is very likely that the plus 0.64% per month will continue. It is likely that we'll wrap up the year somewhere around 3.5% to 5%. And the good news is it's a positive number. This next slide, we're seeing data from Fannie Mae, and this chart is looking at quarter-over-quarter change in home prices. And guess what? They're showing the same thing. Q1 and Q2 of 2022 were up. The market adjusted in the next 2 quarters, and we've been back up and steady the first 3 quarters of this year. Here's a quote from Doug Duncan, the Senior VP and Chief Economist at Fannie Mae. We're now in the 4th quarter when house price appreciation typically slows. And with interest rates both higher and more volatile, it would be reasonable to expect some additional slowing in price appreciation. That last part is essential to understand. It would be reasonable to expect some additional slowing in price appreciation. What's so essential about that? There's no mention of depreciation in home prices. Our returning champion, Selma Hepp, is back saying, high mortgage rates have slowed additional price surges, with monthly increases returning to regular seasonal averages. In other words, home prices are still growing but are in line with historical seasonal expectations. And what do they mean by historical seasonal expectations? Let's take a look at this slide with data by Case Shiller, looking at the 49-year average monthly price movement for 1973 through 2022. When's the quote-unquote best time of the year to sell? Well, history shows it's May, followed by April, then June, and it's a photo finish for March and July. After August, so from September through February, the numbers aren't as strong. Not to say those months may not be the best time to sell, because the best time to sell is when it's best for you, but this is what the data shows. So please understand that there's a huge difference between home price appreciation decelerating and home price depreciation. Yes, you can certainly look at this chart and say prices go up after the start of the year and begin to come down after the spring and early summer markets, but that simply is not a statement that tells the full story. There's a seasonality to the market, and even more so in a more normal market. With this next slide, we're combining data from the last slide and comparing it to the price movement we've seen so far this year through August. And comparing 2023 to the 49-year average, I would say we're not doing too shabby. Now we're waiting for everyone to come out with their data, but love them or hate them, Zillow put out their numbers for September. Yes, the unthinkable happened. They're showing that September saw a drop-off of 0.1%. Although we don't like to see numbers go into the red, this is such a minimal percentage that there wouldn't appear to be a need for us to press the panic button. We'll wait for everyone else to come out with their reports, but I believe overall we're going to see minimal to flat growth across the board. Which, given everything that's going on, I'll take it. Moving along, looking at 2023 year-end home price forecasts, all sources listed are optimistic, with the National Association of Realtors actually showing a minimal dip of 0.4%, but the overall average of the latest projections from the 6 sources is an increase in home prices by 3.3%. And let me point out that NAR comes out with their forecast quarterly, with the last one being in August. They're due again next month, so I'll be curious to see if they change their tune and stay in the red or come up above zero. Bottom line, prices have not fallen this year, and as I film this on October 17th, it does not look like prices are going to fall by the end of this year. What can we expect over the next few years? Well, we certainly can't predict the future, but we can forecast. The HPES, the Home Price Expectation Survey, is a nationwide panel of over 100 economists, real estate experts, and investment and market strategists. As forecasted in Q3 of this year, they're expecting home prices to continue to appreciate over the next few years. It may not be a crazy appreciation, but appreciation nonetheless. With a dip next year, still appreciation, and steady growth each year to follow. Let's do our part to keep things moving in the right direction. And remember, it's far less about keeping the economy moving and way more about doing what is best for you and your household. Quick announcement. Be sure to catch us next week when we plan to discuss multi-generational living options as a possible solution to the affordability crisis, as well as give you Chicago's latest data. Now it's time to wake up! For the moment you've been waiting for. This information and data is provided by the Chicago Association of Realtors, covering the month of September 2023, and is current as of October 14th. First report I want to bring up here is the lender-mediated report. This covers the sale of properties that are foreclosed, REO, pre-foreclosure, or short sale, essentially bank-owned or soon-to-be bank-owned properties, potentially bank-owned properties in the near future. And this is for residential activity only throughout Chicago, the 77 areas. The share of closed sales that were lender-mediated was 3.2%, and yes, that is a little bit up compared to the last few months that were in the 2s, but certainly not a sign of panic just yet, folks. And I'm not expecting, and a lot of experts are not expecting the market to be flooded with foreclosures and short sales and et cetera type of properties. There are certainly going to be some, because that's just normal in a normal market, but certainly not a flood. At least that's not where we're expecting, looking at all the data and information that we have available to us. And again, we're looking at the entire state of Chicago. This report, or these reports, I should say, cover both detached single-family homes and attached single-family homes, attached being condos and townhomes. But for the sake of the video and timing, we're just going to cover detached single-family homes. For all residential properties, looking at changes in new listings, we were down by 20.8%, and closed sales down by 10.5%. and inventory of homes down by 27.2%. Next, we'll be looking at a few different categories, and again, this is for detached single-family homes throughout Chicago proper. We'll be comparing the last two Septembers, so September 2023 and September 2022, and then looking at the year-to-date numbers through September 2023 and through September 2022. For new listings, we wrapped up the month of September with 1,470 detached single-family homes hitting the market, a drop-off comparing both Septembers of 24.1% year over year. Taking a look at year-to-date, 13,016 with a drop-off of 18.6% year over year. Closed sales, 712, a drop-off of 11.7%. Looking at the last two Septembers, and year-to-date, 6,632 with a drop-off of just under 20% year over year. Now taking a look at homes under contract for just single-family detached homes, we wrapped up the month of September with 716, up by 4.1% comparing both Septembers, and year-to-date 7,068, down by 13.1% year over year. The median sales price, $310K. Last month, that was an increase of 3.3% looking at both Septembers, and $305K, a decrease of 4.7% year over year. The average sales price now, comparing to the median sales price, is very different. That's why we have to look at both numbers. $450,000, $239,000 last month, up by 1.2%. Comparing both Septembers, and $446,805, down by 8% year over year. Certainly not reflective of all neighborhoods and areas in Chicago, but that is those are the average sales prices across the city as a whole. Now, one piece of data that I like to look at, because I think it gives us a good idea of the level of confidence that sellers and or their brokers who are providing them insight and guidance have when they're hitting the market. That piece of data would be the average list price. Last month, the average list price was $511,425, up 12.1%, looking at both Septembers, and the year-to-date number $513,132, up by 4.2% year over year. On the flip side, looking at percent of original list price received, something's only worth what somebody's willing to pay for it. We wrapped up the month of September at 98% for single-family detached homes, up by 1.5% comparing both Septembers, and year-to-date 97.2%, which was a little dip of 1.2% year over year. Certainly at 97.2% for all of Chicagoland, I would say it's still a very solid number for a big metro city in the current market that we have. Market time is a great category to see how quickly homes are moving. Looking at September, we were at 59 days, being the average days on market that a single-family detached home lasted, compared to 54 the previous September, up by 8.6% comparing those 2 months, and year-to-date 69 versus 51, an increase of 35.7% year over year. And inventory of homes for sale, we wrapped up the month of September with 2,336 single-family detached homes on the market, down by just under 28% comparing both Septembers. So, what does all this information mean for you? Heck if I know. All depends on what's going on in your life and your household. Let's start a conversation and see how we can help you make the most informed decisions. If you'd like copies of any reports or slides we shared with you today, feel free to reach out. You can call, text, or email. My contact info is below. And remember, love and money may come and go, but time is something we never get back, so I thank and appreciate you for sharing some of your time with me today. If you want to stay on top of the market with us, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. And think of one person you believe would benefit from this info, and be sure to share it with them. As always, and now more than ever, take care of yourselves and each other. Don't forget to hug someone today, and I'll catch you next time.